Week 2 of VCT Americas Stage 1 has concluded, and we have seen some pretty crazy matches. There were some pretty interesting and surprising upsets that happened this week, as well as some teams looking to have good years have some really strong matches. So we're here to look through all 6 matches that happened over the weekend. Let's get right into it. So this is the board we have today. We will be going through each one of these matches. Starting at the Friday matches, we have Energy versus Furia. Now pretty quickly, this match looked like it was going to be an upset win for Furia. Energy starting their stage 1 off rough with a loss to C9 after having a pretty disappointing kickoff. It was starting to look like this team was potentially headed for disaster. And if they ended up losing against Furia in this match, that would have been a very concerning sign, because Furia is considered by many to be one of the worst teams in the league. And Furia were able to have a strong map 1 and win that one, but then Energy started to remember the caliber of players that they had. They ended up dominating Furia in those last 2 maps, so maybe that is a sign that things are about to turn around for this North American team. Looking at map 1, we have Lotus, this one being Energy's pick, and quickly Furia started well, much like they did against G2, but that match fell apart for them as well. They ended up having a 5-1 lead at round 6, but Energy would claw their way back on that defense side to tie the game. However, after Furia yet again won the pistol, winning both pistols of this map, Energy had to get 3 in a row to make this one a little close. It would be tied at 9 at round 18, but then Furia would get the 4 that they needed to end this one. Som begging for help on this one, 25 kills on the Omen. He's been having a really good season, which is unfortunate because Energy has not looked as fantastic as he has. But when you have FNS as your second best fragger, then yeah, there's definitely some issues going on in this map, but at least they made it close. And on the side of Furia, Havoc, a player that has been looking for a bounce back, had a pretty solid map, 22 kills on the Neon. Prize, second match on his new team. He was the second best fragger on his team with 15 kills on the Fade. So Furia were looking really strong. This looked like it was about to get away from Energy, but then they got their stuff together, because map 2 being Pearl ended up being a 13-2 stomping in favor of Energy. Furia not getting anything going on either their defense or attack side on this map. Energy starting strong by winning 3 in a row, ended up having a 10-2 half, winning 5 rounds in a row to end the half, and then continuing that streak into the pistol, winning the only 3 that they needed. Furia getting none on their attack side. Complete momentum shift in this game. Energy recovered very well. Brock doing a great job on his new team. On the Sova got 14 kills. He had the best rating on his team, but the top fragger ended up being Mata, who has been quite good for them, but a little quieter than he was at kickoff. And Energy doing this while Finesse didn't have to get too many kills. He only ended up having 4, which was the least on the entire server. But hey, everyone else was fragging and his calling was clearly working, so doesn't really matter. And on the side of Furia, negatives across the board. Prize was their top fragger with 8 kills. No one got more than that. Havoc with a really bad second map after that strong first map, only 5 kills. And then we would move on to Fracture, where things would not get better for Furia. Energy would win the pistol and ended up winning 8 rounds in a row. Furia only getting 2 on their defense side. Furia would win the second pistol, but that was all they could muster. Energy would win this one quickly at round 17. Mata with a very strong map here. He was plus 17 with 26 kills on the Raze. And Finesse having a decent map with 13 kills on the Cypher. He was plus 4. On the side of Furia, this time Khalil was their top fragger with 12 kills on the Brimstone. That is pretty concerning that your duelist player is getting 4 kills while your smokes player has to be the top fragger. So the issues that Furia have been having all season rear their ugly head for these last 2 maps, a match that they could have won, but it just got away from them. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of Energy, we have Som, who went 49, 24, and 24. He was plus 25. And on the side of Fury, not much praise to go around, but Prize had an okay match. He was 30, 35, and 4. He was minus 5. So Energy get the win that they desperately needed. If they have any shot at making playoffs, they need to go on a bit of a run. And this match against Fury was debatably the easiest win that they were going to get, so this was very important for them. They do have G2 up next. I'm not expecting them to win that one. Upsets can happen, but I just don't see G2 backing down to this team. So things are just going to get tougher for Energy from here, so getting this win is very important. We'll see what they can do for the rest of the split. And for Furia, it's more of the same. This team has been kind of a disaster this season, not really improving much from their also pretty rough season last year. I don't really know if I see them winning a game this split. They do have Leviatan up next. That's a winnable match. We'll get to that team later. But right now, things are just looking down for the Brazilian team. Moving on to the second match of the Friday Friday, we have Crew versus Sentinels. This one ended up being a 2-0 victory for the Latin American team. Sentinels favored by most in this matchup. They looked good in their game against 100 Thieves, but that is a matchup that they usually win. But having a 13-1 map against 100 Thieves showed that, hey, maybe this team is ready to dominate the rest of the split. But Crew is a much more difficult opponent than 100 Thieves, at least in my opinion, and they showed why in this match. Not only beating Sentinels, but not even allowing them to get a map. That's very impressive work from this team that definitely were the underdogs heading into this one. Crew are looking to get the respect that they deserve. They are a very solid team, and this is how you show people. Looking at map 1, we have Lotus. This one being Sentinels pick, a map that they were pretty solid on last year, but in 2025 it hasn't been as good for them. They had that pretty bad loss on it against DRX at Bangkok, and now we have them losing 13-7 against Crew. Sentinels would win the pistol, but then we would go a bit back and forth, both teams trading 2 rounds. Very even first half, ended up being tied at round 12, but then Crew would take the pistol. Sentinels only able to get 1 win on their attack side that was stealing the bonus, but Crew ended up winning 5 in a row to get this one. John QT on the Viper was the only positive for Sentinels here, 15 kills for him, he was +3. Everybody else going negative, Narrate especially having a rough match, only 7 kills on the Fade. And on the side of Crew, a lot of positives overall here. Kesnet on the Euro getting 19 kills, he was +7, very solid match from him. 17 kills for Mazzino, he was +5, he looks to have a pretty good stage 1. And moving on to map 2, this one being Crew's pick of Icebox, Crew would do basically the same thing. Pretty even first half, but this time ended up being a bit favorable for Sentinels, 7-5 at the half. Crew would win that pistol, so Sentinels struggling on pistols in this match overall, only winning the very first one. But Sentinels were definitely in the driver's seat heading into their defense half, but then Crew started that second half by winning 5 in a row, giving them a strong 10-7 lead. Sentinels were only able to get 1 round on that defense. Second, definitely having a bit of a bounce back map here on the Jet. He got 23 kills, he was +8. Zelsis definitely struggling in this one on the Killjoy, only 7 kills for him, he was -8. And for Crew, all positives yet again, Kesnet and Mazzino shining once again, 23 kills for both of them. Worst that they had was Adverso tying Zelsis with 7 kills, but when you have Mazzino and Kesnet doing what they were doing, it doesn't really matter. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of Crew, we have Kesnet, who went 42, 27, and 11 for +15. And on the side of Sentinels, we have Zekin, who went 37, 30, and 8 for +7. So Crew showing the rest of the Americas that they are a team to be respected. Really great win from them. This match was close at times, but those second halves were very clutch for them. So right now, Crew are looking pretty consistent and pretty strong. That is something that they struggled with in 2024, where they would look amazing, but just not be very consistent. If they can find that consistency, which they have looked very solid in both kickoff as well as stage 1 so far, then this team should be in good hands. Just try to avoid those maps like the map that they lost against Loud on. And for Sentinels, rough loss, but not the biggest deal. Crew is a good team. This isn't some massive upset that's going to completely ruin morale or anything. It's just a game that they lost. They have a good chance at recovering later on. They are playing Evil Geniuses next. That is a winnable match, but they should not take any opponent lightly, because games like this are going to show that they have some weaknesses that they need to work on. Moving on to the Saturday games, we have 100 Thieves versus Evil Geniuses. 100 Thieves coming off a loss against Sentinels, a matchup that they always lose, and Evil Geniuses coming off of a win against 2G. So EG get that easy win. Can they build off of that momentum? 100 Thieves would not allow it. 2-0 victory for that team. It wasn't the most dominant win, but still a very solid game of Valorant for them. Looking at map 1, we have Fracture, this one being EG's pick, and EG did play this one pretty well. They did win that pistol, they get to 3 rounds, but then 100 Thieves start to build on that defense side. Very solid second half of that first half from 100 Thieves would make this a tied game. EG would win that second pistol, but couldn't build off of that. 100 Thieves would win 4 in a row right after, and EG only getting 3 more after that. This one is over before EG could tie it. Cryocells was feasting on this team on the chamber. He had 28 kills, couldn't break 30, but he was +15, and EU was also having a very strong map for himself. I've been waiting for him to get going on the Tejo. He had 23 kills, he was +10. Everybody else was negative, but those 2 players were so good that it didn't really matter. On the side of EG, the former 100 Thieves player in Derek was their top fragger with 20 kills on the Tejo, he was +4. Both Ye and Icy struggling on this one. Ye on the Killjoy only with 10 kills, Icy with 15 on the Raze. Moving on to map 2, we have Haven, this one not being a blowout, but a pretty dominant win for 100 Thieves. This time 100 Thieves would win that pistol, and EG was the team that had to crawl back. This one ended up being tied at the half, and then 100 Thieves started to show some dominance by winning the first 4 rounds of the second half. EG would get 1 at round 17, but then 3 in a row for 100 Thieves would end it. Cryocells, yet again having a very strong match for himself. 26 kills on the ISO, he was plus 13. EU once again in second place in terms of kills on his team. On the Sova, he had 17, he was plus 7. Not a lot going on for Asuna or Boostio or Xander, but the team was overall playing good enough, and those two players were just having a great day. And for EG, Ye would have a bounce back map. He had 19 kills on the Cypher. I really like his Cypher this year. His Killjoy, not so much. But Derek had a decent map as well, 14 kills. Icy on the Waylay was struggling though, only 11 for him. He was minus 5. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of 100 Thieves, we have Cryocells with maybe his best game of the season so far. He went 54, 26, and 9 for plus 28. On the side of Evil Geniuses, we have Derek playing against his former team, 34, 29, and 12 for plus 5. So overall, this was a good win from 100 Thieves, a winnable match and one that they had to get back into the running for playoffs. That group is an absolute dogfight right now. Any team can drop out of the playoffs, any team can make the playoffs. So if 100 Thieves has to be in the positive side of those two realities, then they're going to have to get going, and this was a good match to get them going. They are playing up against Loud next, and based off of the game that Loud just played, that should be a winnable match. However, Loud might be pretty angry at their loss and really needing a bounce back, might play with their lives on the line. So 100 Thieves are going to have to match that energy if they want to get that win, but so far they're looking pretty good. And for EG, not the worst loss. I would say this was a winnable one for them, and they made it close. They just could not put it home and did not look very good in the second half of that second map. So this team is gonna look for a bounce back against Sentinels, but that's another team that is looking for a bounce back as well. So not really too confident in their chances going forward, but I could see them having some upset wins. And moving on, we have probably the most exciting game of the entire weekend, and this was G2 versus MIBR. If you watched my recent power ranking video, you would know that these two teams are at 1 and 2 on the power rankings. G2, of course, at number 1, MIBR at number 2. I think that's a pretty fair spot for MIBR. I did get some people disagreeing with me on that take, but MIBR played a very good match against G2. They definitely could have beat G2 for this one. They might have been the best chance of G2 having a loss during this round robin stage, and that's because G2 are a fantastic team, and if you're gonna beat them, you're gonna have to bring your A game, and MIBR have some players playing very good right now. They end up stealing that first map out from under G2, but just could not do the same on maps 2 and 3. Looking at map 1, we have Pearl, a map that both teams are very solid on. MIBR ended up picking this one, and they would start strong by winning the pistol, but G2 would steal it right back. 6-3 at round 9 in favor of G2, but MIBR would win the last 3 of that half to tie it up. G2 would win that second pistol. They ended up getting a 10-7 lead, but then MIBR start to have a pretty strong defense side for themselves, and they get pretty close to winning this one. But then G2 gets to 12, MIBR have to tie it, and then we head into overtime. And overtime would end up going in favor of MIBR, MIBR being a very good overtime team this year. On the side of G2, Trent had a good map for himself, 24 kills on the Tejo, continuing his strong play. And on the side of MIBR, the other Tejo playing in this match, Verno, had 19 kills. He was leading his team in rating. Very solid match from him. Ospas on the Waylay. In terms of the Americas, he probably looks like the best Waylay aside from maybe Jogamo. The success rate of that agent, at least from my observation in this region, has been pretty up and down. A lot of people not having faith in the agent, but teams are trying her out. So MIBR get that solid win on Pearl, but now we're heading to G2's map pick of Haven, where G2 would start this one really strong, winning the pistol, getting to a 4-round lead. But then yet another pretty back and forth end to the first half would end up having G2 with a 7-5 lead. MIBR would win that second pistol, but then G2 started to have a pretty strong attack side. But MIBR were keeping themselves in it, but G2 got to a 12-9 lead. And MIBR would win 2 rounds in a row, almost getting this one to overtime again, where they could have won this one, but G2 would stop that from happening. On the side of G2, Valen had a really strong map in this one, 23 kills for the IGL on the Astra, and Jogamo on his Resident Yoru this year, 20 kills for him. He looked very solid. Trent had a rough map with only 8 kills. He was minus 10, but the team ended up winning. And on the side of the Brazilian team, Genom, one of my favorite players this year, 17 kills on the Omen. He's looking really good. 20 kills for Cortesia, leading his team on the Cypher. He was +4. Ospas getting 18 kills overall on the Jet. Moving on to map 3, Ascent would be where where G2 would establish that dominance and shut this MIBR squad down from getting that win over them. G2 winning that pistol, they end up getting to a 6-1 lead and end the half 8-4. Heading into their defense side, Ascent is a pretty defender-sided map, so very strong position to put themselves in, and they started that half really strong. They ended up having a 11-4 lead at round 15, so MIBR with a tough hill to climb would win 4 rounds to get to 8, but it just was not enough. Leaf and Jawgemo having their best maps of the game, 25 kills for both of them, Leaf on the Vise, Jawgemo on the Waylay. Verno would have another strong map for himself, 20 kills for him on the Sova. Ospas struggling a bit, but he was only -2, 16 kills for him. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of G2, we have Jawgemo, who went 64, 51, and 11 for +13. And on the side of MIBR, we have Verno going 54, 44, and 23 for +10. So this was a really competitive and close match. G2 definitely getting tested here, but overall still establishing the fact that they are the best team in this region right now. In terms of teams in this region that have the potential to beat them, it seems like a pretty short list right now, and MIBR might have been the best chance. However, they will not be facing again until at least playoffs if that matchup does end up happening, which I could definitely see it. And MIBR might be able to win that rematch. They've been a very good team this year. They look really strong. The rookies are clicking. Verno looks like a good addition. Ospas up and down here and there, but he has a lot more responsibility on this team than he did on Leviatan, so it makes sense. This team overall looks pretty solid. They are playing C9 next, so they're on a bit of a roll right now, so that's not going to be an easy match to win. So we'll see what ends up happening for that one, but right now this team should be feeling good even though they lost this one. Moving on to the last day of matches, we have 2 matches that ended up being pretty quick overall, but definitely some surprising results here, such as this 2G versus Loud game. So Loud, what happened here? 2G are a team in complete disarray. They end up losing a player in between kickoff and stage 1. Prize moving on to Furia. They still don't have Spike, their best player, who's too young to play in tier 1. And then over the past week, they lost their IGL in Zap because of internal issues. So much drama around this team, they only have 2 players left that won them that Ascension trophy. And Loud are a team that is coming off of a loss against Crew, which is a pretty good team, so this should be a pretty easy bounce back game for them. However, 2G ended up getting their first win of the season over Loud 2-0, not even letting Loud win a map. This game was probably the most surprising result in the VCT Americas in 2025 so far. Loud are definitely inconsistent this year, but can look really solid, but this match was not one of them. Starting with map 1, we have Lotus. This one being Loud's pick, and this one ended up being an overtime win for 2G, 14-12. And at the start, it looked like this one was going to go in the same way that all the other 2G games have went, them getting dominated. Loud win the first 4 rounds in a row, 2G would answer with 4 of their own, tying the game, but Loud would not allow them to get the lead. 7-5 at the half, 2G are looking better, but still can't really seem to get much going here. But then they win the pistol and tie the game once again. Still not getting the lead though, they lose 3 rounds in a row. They would end up getting the first lead at the map, 11-10, but then Loud would get to 12, and then 2G would answer with 1 more win on that defense side to bring this one into overtime, where they would win the only 2 rounds of that overtime, getting their first map of 2025, the first map of tier 1 for them. Digizin doing his best to keep his team in this game, 32 kills on the Neon. He was looking pretty good today. A player that is usually pretty inconsistent was looking really strong, but the rest of his team were not looking as strong. Tankata would do pretty good with 19 kills, but only 9 kills for your IGL and Vinny, 20 deaths for him. He was -11. Pretty rough game from him, whereas for 2G, some pretty positive signs here. We had LZ with 25 kills on the Omen. He was +7. Go Barra, a pretty solid addition from them, kind of underrated player. 17 kills for him on the Tejo. Worst they were doing is their new player PXS with 14 kills, but he had some really strong plays today. So Loud ended up losing that map, but hey, there's still 2 more maps to go if you can win the next one. So just forget about that map 1, and then, you know, this should still go in Loud's favor, right? Nope, 2G started this one really strong, winning the first 5 rounds in a row. Loud would end up stealing the momentum right back, but we still ended the first half 7-5. And then 2G would win the second pistol and ended up having an 11-5 lead, and then 5 round wins in a row for Loud would get them within 1, but then 2G wouldn't allow them to tie it. This one over at round 25, right before overtime. It took until the very last round, but 2G would get their first win. Pancada doing his best to keep his team in it, 24 kills for him. Digizin, solid map for him overall with 19. Gobera, yet again, underrated player, 21 kills for him. He was +4. Askia, one of their new players, had 20 kills as well. Really strong play from this team that was itching to get their first win. They finally do it against another Brazilian team. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of 2G, could have been a couple different candidates, but I ended up going with Askia, who went 38, 33, and 10 for +5. On the side of Loud, Digizin leading the server in kills with 51. He had 36 deaths, 9 assists, and he was +15. So 2G get that first win, so now that monkey is off your back. Don't need to worry about that. This team doesn't have a great chance of making playoffs, but they can play spoiler to some of these teams that are looking for those playoff spots. If they can put together a strong end to the split, then maybe this team can do something either in playoffs if they ended up making there, or in stage 2 if they just build some momentum and some chemistry with one another. I still don't expect this team to win a lot of games going forward, but if they were able to do this against Loud, a team that in my power rankings were top 5 before this match, they have dropped down precipitously, so look for that in the next power ranking video. But 2G, this was a good win for them. And for Loud are a weird team in the fact that every season there seems to be a midpoint in the season where they end up having a slump. So is this that mid-season slump? We will end up seeing how the rest of their split goes, but this is a match that they needed. They are now 0-2 in the stage. They're up against 100 Thieves next, a team that they could lose to. So nothing is going to get easier for this Brazilian team. This was one they needed to get, and they didn't. Moving on to the very last match that we have to talk about, we have C9 versus Leviatan. This one ended up being a pretty dominant win for C9, who are doing what they always do and have a strong stage 1. In the battle of the blue team, C9 were always in the driver's seat. Leviatan never really had much of a lead. They would start the match by winning the pistol, but I believe that was the only other lead that they had for the entire match. This one going especially rough for Leviatan on that map too. They could not get anything going, and C9 were in the driver's seat the whole time. Looking at map 1, we have split, this one being a 13-8 win in favor of C9. Lev would win that pistol, but then 3 in a row would answer from C9 right away. And then the rest of that half would pretty much be all C9, ending at 8-4. C9 win the pistol, they get to match point, it's 12-5. Lev win 3 in a row to try to get themselves back in it, but the hill is just too much to climb. Demon 1, a player who has been desperately needing a good match, would have a decent one today. 14 kills for him, he did lead his team in rating. Rossi looking to get revenge against the team that dumped him in the offseason, 19 kills for him, but not much else going for the rest of the players on that team, whereas C9 had some pretty strong performances. Zeppa on the Teo looking to find that consistency, 19 kills for him, he looked very strong. Oxy on the Yoru, strong match, 18 kills for him. And then map 2 of Ascent, this one being Leviatan's pick, would just be all C9 all the time. It was just a disaster right away for Leviatan. They had to burn both of their timeouts before round 8, and they would only get one round win on their attack side, this one being 11-1 at the half. And then C9 would win the second pistol, Lev would get 2 to not make this one, 13-1, 13-0. But yep, C9 would end this one very quickly. Demon 1 again leading his team in rating, but it's not really saying much when the leading rating is 0.79. He only had 10 kills there, and it's just negatives across the board. Calm especially having a rough match, only 5 kills for him on the Sova. And for C9, very strong map for Vic, 20 kills and 20 assists for +16. Great rating for him at 2.13. Fantastic match from him. Zeppa continuing his strong play, 14 kills, and no one getting below 11 kills. Straight up a just banger from C9 for this one. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of C9, we have Vic going 38, 19, and 26 for +19. And for Leviatan, we have Demon 1 going 24, 30, and 11 for -6. So C9 have won 2 games in a row now. They've looked pretty strong in the stage 1. They are in a good position to make playoffs, but playoffs is always where they fall short. I've been saying it in past videos, I will continue to say it. I'm not going to believe this team is legit until I see them do well in a playoff bracket. But right now, they're riding high. Some of their players are playing very well. Vic looks like a great pickup. Zeppa has been having a strong stage 1 so far. And Oxy is starting to pick things up again. So things are looking pretty peachy in the land of C9, but for Leviatan, it's looking like a disaster. The role swaps that they've done of having Kane on Duelist, Demon 1 on Smokes. Demon 1 had a decent day during that match, but Kane has been struggling. It just looks like nothing is working for this team right now. I'm really questioning the coach's decision here and the roster decisions. Maybe Natank wasn't the problem, and just what they have right now is is a team that definitely has some talent, but the combination is just not one that works. Really not looking good for them going forward. They are up against Furia next, so that looks like a game they can win. But after that, they have G2 and then Energy, so don't think I see them winning either of those ones, so this could get very ugly very fast for Leviatan. So those are all the matches that I have to talk about. I will be doing another power rankings video. We're doing them weekly for the Americas, so there'll be that as well as more videos coming this week before we get to the weekend matches, and then we'll be doing another recap. So thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comment section down below, what did you think of these matches? Who do you think are the top dogs in this region right now? Please click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!